Mediocrity at its finest. Here we go.
Here, people.
Ready?
Cannot contain me.
Yes, Osmata!
It's like fucking amazing. I don't even know how you do this shit.
Nope, that theory is wrong. It is false.
Yes, you got this.
Never felt
Mr.
so alive!
Giraffe. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Ah!
Who wants to eat this tantalizing love loaf?
This is the best thing we've ever done, you guys.
I know! Oh, this is hot!
This is the thrift store date stream, y'all.
Today we're showing off how people are doing more with less as a streamer and showing off some of their cool setups and their successes. I'm on a boat, take a good hard look on a mother boat.
Let's go.
Hey everybody, as you saw from the video, today's guest we have was Theonlysuper. Welcome in, Super.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
That's alright. So, let's get into some questions for you.
Sure.
So how long have you actually been streaming for?
Yeah, I've been a streamer for, I think this year we're going to be celebrating our 6th year anniversary of the Positive Power Hour, which is just kind of what I affectionately call my stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, 5.5 years roughly. I think July will be our 6 years.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've just hit 6 years myself this year.
Really? Oh, congratulations.
That's why I'm doing the podcast for something different.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. It's more like celebratory and talking about your journey and the journeys of other streamers.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was January I hit 6 years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's 6 years. 6 years is a big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes on in those 6 years. A lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to streaming, I've never heard of anybody's kind of journey just being this linear path in which they get on. They're like, hey man, I just keep growing. Like, you know, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to learn anything. It's like this constant 6 years. So you kind of look at people with 6 years on the platform, and you kind of look and you're like, what was their journey? You know, like what did they learn along the way?
Yep. And that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah. Right on.
So, what was the reason you started actually streaming?
Well, to be honest, I kind of got pressured into streaming a little bit. It really started back where pre-COVID, I was hanging out with my friend who actually, was on Mixer. And then, Mixer shut down. Everybody moved over to Twitch. There was a little bit of this Rumble period where, everybody from Mixer coming in, it was a different vibe. So, people were just getting used to it. And so he himself was kind of getting more and more comfortable where he had built up his following there. And then, he had a rough starting off on Twitch and getting used to that vibe and that community and building up community there. And so as a result, he was kind of like enlisting some people to come in and hang out with him. And so I've, been his best friend for a long time. So he pretty much reached out to me and he was like, dude, I want to play something with you, right? I'd love to have some mutual content here. And I didn't have even an account on Twitch. I didn't even know what it was until he told me that he was on Twitch and he wanted, to play with me. And I was like, hey, if it's just playing a game, and chilling and doing what we might normally do, I'm cool with that, right? I don't care. And so it took us a little bit to figure out what kind of game we were going to play together because I didn't have a lot of games, especially multiplayer games. And he was, I believe, COD, And so that's a very, very different vibe. It's very heavy, I'm going to say sweaty. And I'm really not that person when I play games. So I also didn't have the game. So it took us a little bit to get through, all of the games that we had. We'd kind of settled that the only game that we shared was Fortnite, and it was only because my son had it. So apparently, and again, learning the culture myself, I didn't realize that if you're a COD player, that Fortnite is kind of like your arch nemesis. It is, you just hate each other, And so after a lot of hums and hawing, and I'm going to lose everybody that I know if I play Fortnite from him, he was like, dude, I'll do it just to have you on. So we did it. We played a little Fortnite. We have some fun. It was a good time. And then his community started showing some growth, and he was like, dude, I'd love to have you on more and more. So I went on, and we started this thing called Fortnite Thursdays, I believe. Fortnite Thursdays. And this is Wysorial, by the way. That's the name of the streamer. And anyway, so I literally just started there. That was my introduction to Twitch as a whole. And then after a little bit, his community was, hey, why don't you come on over and start your own account, instead of being on Wise's? I think people would love you. And so his community pressured me to do it. So I was like, hey, I'll do it just to have a Twitch. I had no aspirations. I had a job. So Twitch, again, was more of a sure type scenario. And so as I was doing that, it, kind of built up a little bit more and a little bit more. And I was just doing it very casually, mostly just on Thursdays. And I started to see the potential of Twitch and what I could be capable of by using the platform, right? Because, again, I was a corporate trainer at the time. My wife was an international floral designer. So, I'm always looking outside the box on how to teach, how to learn. And this seemed to have a lot of possibilities with all the versatility of, what people do on the platform. So, and that's kind of where COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I lost my job as a corporate trainer. My wife lost, she was laid off as well as a florist. And we just kind of met in the middle, and we said, what are we going to do? Like, we're all, locked in our houses. How do we continue to have a creative outlet? Because both of us have incredibly creative jobs that kind of allow us to release and think and create together. And so that became difficult, and I was like, well, hey, Twitch, I've already been thinking of what we might be able to do. We could create something called the Positive Power Hour, even if we went live for one day, and let's just say we do it together, right? And we'll pick a topic. You come and do some homework with pictures or stories that has to do with that topic. I'll do the same on my end, right? And we'll come together, and we'll just, tell each other's things, and we'll banter about it, and we'll banter with chat about it, right? So that was kind of the idea. And so we did that for only an hour, and all of a sudden we started growing with that. And of course, during COVID, lots of people were home. There was this huge tsunami that came over to Twitch from the rest of the world. And so Twitch was just flooded. Lots of, and people were getting, subsidies from government. So, and they weren't doing anything. Nobody was going out drinking. Grocery shopping was minimal as people were saving money and learning to live off of less. And so there was also kind of more money going around at that time for either people that were getting those subsidies or just people that didn't financially struggle during that time. What else are they going to spend it on? So Twitch was a big hotspot for that. So lots of growth there in a very short period of time. And that's kind of where it came from. Eventually, COVID kind of receded a little bit. And then, we learned how to manage things a little bit more. People were getting vaccines, and those were coming into effect, and all the other stuff where they started saying, okay, everybody, let's, dial back on the restrictions. And so people started going back to work. They started living their lives outside of the home more and more. As a result, that recession kind of happened on Twitch as well. And of course, my wife ended up going back to work. My job had completely laid me off, so I couldn't go back to that. They had suffered a lot because they were really not prepared to go virtual. So during that time, they basically just made no money and had no money to invest. So I was left without a job. So I could have gone out and found a job or on Twitch. But the truth is at that time, we were doing really well. And we've had a lot of ups and downs since, but that's when I just kind of made the decision. This could be possible. Like, this is an income. And so from there, it's just been kind of maintaining that ever since. It was like, started off with that little bit of peer pressure. Come join me on Twitch. Sure, why not? Start a Twitch account. Sure, why not? We're in COVID. What are we going to do? Maybe we should do a Positive Power Hour type thing to give everybody a positive boost and break in their day during lunch hour for anybody still working or anybody that needs that, positive boost halfway through their day to get the rest of their day. Sure, why not? And then COVID, ended, and it was like I could go back to work or I could still stream. Sure, why not? And after that, it did become more of a passion and a hobby to like invest more creativity and really deep dive and dig into what Twitch could offer for my creative outlet, and that's where we are today.
Nice. I didn't actually know that's where you started. That's actually good to hear that. I knew you started with your wife, but I didn't know
Oh yeah,
who it was. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, and I have to say I miss that. If I could peer pressure my wife into saying sure, why not, and come back and join me for some positive power hours, I think without that I probably wouldn't have maybe stayed on the platform. I might have learned some things. I might have done it as a hobby for kind of funsies, for the sake of a community and camaraderie and things like that. But I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much right out of the gate. I think just having, my partner with me, the fact that we vibe so well, and that became an opportunity during COVID, that we did have a chance to kind of vibe together, and even though we couldn't go out on dates and things like that, it was kind of like, a once a day date for an hour with a community that is like, hey, these guys are kind of crazy. I like their vibe together,
Yep.
And that, kind of that kind of camaraderie and that vibe and that back and forth is hard to recreate. So that's why I've kind of created so much other stuff. So that way, hopefully I can build connections with other streamers by providing those opportunities and bringing more and more on with, events like the Streamer Showcase and other stuff that we do to bring streamers together. So that way, again, I can build that camaraderie with my community.
Yeah. Oh, at least I can skip one question because you answered two questions in one there.
Okay, yeah, hey, let's go.
So, what's been a high and a low in your stream career?
Yeah, there's been so many. I think that's a very difficult question, maybe for any streamer to answer, unless they answer really quickly, because there was a big one in there. I mean, I've had a couple of highs, like for instance, in my venture to try and create as much opportunities for streamers within my community to get visibility, just because that's probably the hardest part of Twitch, right? Is that there's not a lot of visibility out there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of. They're creating more and more opportunities, which is incredible. Still, the flow of visibility is difficult. And so, again, I try to use my visibility to combine with other people's visibility to help build us all together. It's one of those rising tides raise all ships. So I did create a whole bunch of game shows and things that just kind of got bigger and bigger, right? Starting off with a house guest, where I would just have one other person on with me when Mrs. Super went back to work. I was like, I know that dynamic can work. So we'd have a house guest come on, and I would just kind of interview him and be us together. And then I was like, I bet you I could feature more. So I did. We created the Streamer Showcase, which featured 4 streamers all at once. And so that was a lot of fun because, again, we had the chance to be able to show off their trailers, to talk about them, get them engaged in challenges and things like that. And that eventually turned into, kind of some game shows that we ended up creating. And those game shows that we were creating for 4 expanded even more. So that way now we were doing 9 streamers at a time, creating games like the Gauntlet, where it's chat versus the panel. Or 12 people, which was like Stream of Thrones, where there's 3 judges and then 9 contestants that battle each other together in a kind of cutthroat Game of Thrones style, kind of game, which is really not that cutthroat. It's just, it's just the style in which I decided to design the game for, all the way up to probably our biggest event, which is currently the Olympics, the Super Olympics. And this can feature up to 100 streamers for like charities such as the Erica Legacy Foundation for mental health and suicide prevention. We really like working with those. And as a life coach, they do that kind of thing. They do, coaching and such. So yeah, it's been a huge journey, and I would say like being able to pull off some of those very large events, right? And then during Christmas time, where we can host up to 80 people with reindeer games and such. So we've done some pretty big things, so that was probably a big one. Is I would just say yearly, being able to pull off the Super Olympics is kind of huge and kind of fun, right?
Yep.
I would say in addition to that, like once you hit partner, you can apply for the front page. And so my front page event that I created was the Silly Surveys, right? Which is a kind of Family Feud style game event. And we created it as a tournament where we had, 8 teams that competed against each other, teams of 3. And so that was a lot of fun, right? And being able to do that on the front page and seeing 5,000, people kind of watching you, and as you feature all these other streamers and give them, that opportunity for visibility and to relax and have fun and create some great content together. And then there was another time where actually this was, I think, during the Super Olympics, during one of them when we were doing the fundraising, and all of a sudden Christopher Lloyd. Do you know who Christopher Lloyd is?
I've heard of him. I can't remember from where.
Yeah. So Christopher Lloyd, have you seen Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay, so he's the doctor. He's Doc Brown. All right? And he's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, even more recently, I've seen him, in an episode of, like, The Mandalorian, right? So he's still kicking around, in movies and such. I think he was also in the movie Nobody, like 1 and 2, which, again, just made my heart happy. And so, yeah, I've seen him. I know that he's recent. And not only that, but I specifically had a conversation with my son about him just before this happened, where we were watching one of the Nobody movies. And I was like, dude, I love Christopher Lloyd. And we were talking about Back to the Future and, how great it is that he's, acting in bigger movies like this still. And it was just great. And so when this happened with the Super Olympics, where all of a sudden we were in the middle of doing stuff, and if you've never seen it for viewers, the Super Olympics is where we get like 100 people or so together, and people do minute-to-win games in a Heat A and B tournament-style event with a face-off from those 2 winners. And it's just silly. It's hilarious. We do things like, chocolate unicorn, where you stack, Oreos on your forehead. Post-it note where you stick post-it notes on your face, or when you put peanut butter on your nose and you try and, move cotton balls from one bowl to another, little silly games like that. And it's just a lot of fun. It's very silly. Anybody can do it, and it may cost people $5 to participate, and it all goes towards a good cause. So as we were in the middle of this, and again, we get donations and things like that throughout, all of a sudden, I see this, like, Christopher Lloyd, and I don't know the dollar amount, I can't remember, but it was, like, a decent enough dollar amount as well that it kind of, like, turned a light on in my head to be like, oh, thank you so much, for that, big dono getting us closer to that goal, we're almost giving away the t-shirt or the backpack or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Chris Mack from the Erica Legacy Foundation, who's in the stream, and he networks with a lot of celebrities and businesses and things like that to try and boost up events and connect these people to kind of like say, hey, this company or this celebrity during this next hour will double any of the fundraising, right? So now everything's times 2. So he'll come in and do that every now and then, and so it's not uncommon for him to kind of be like, yo, by the way, this is happening right now. And so Christopher Lloyd, it was the name, and it did spark ring a bell that I'm like, Christopher Lloyd, oh, that's such a cool name. But when you're on Twitch, you get like all kinds of names. Like I'm Theonlysuper, obviously not my real name. You've got people that are like, say, Ryan Reynolds 4431. So it's not uncommon to see celebrity names kind of, being used as people's names on this platform, and the same as any platform. And so again, it just kind of was like, like I've seen this kind of stuff a lot. Not necessarily Christopher Lloyd isn't a popular one necessarily, but I just kind of passed it on. That's when Chris Mack got into chat and again said, yo, this is the real Christopher Lloyd. And I swear, I don't think that I've ever actually blanked on just fangirling over anyone while I was live ever. And my brain stopped, and I think I just went into this, like, like Porky Pig type, speech, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, this childhood, classic movie in my life. I actually shared Back to the Future with my son and my daughter. It was the first movie that we ever saw movies in the park with. And so I remember sitting down there watching, that. And so Christopher Lloyd has a lot of really great memories for me. The fact Chris told me he was in a call with him for 2 hours afterwards, that they were hanging out together watching the Super Olympics.
Wow.
So just the fact that he just didn't come in and do a donation and then kind of move on, I'd be more than happy with that. But the fact that I was told that they found value and they thought it was such a cool idea that you're able to create these kind of virtual game shows that bring people together for these positive things, with the quality and production that we're able to do it, that was both validating and complimentary,
Yep. And I said, because, with the validation that it's him as well, and it's like you said, there's all sorts of names on there.
There's all sorts of names on there. I mean, everything you can possibly think of. And it's only when you're thinking about, okay, I want to create another account, whether you create it as, say, a bot account, like an account that you can just kind of use as a name in your stream to be able to do shout outs and things, or whether you just create another account. So that way you can kind of test your content and your technical stuff on another account. So that way you don't end up using your own account, and that affects your numbers and your analytics and all that stuff. So I mean, every time you're thinking about, okay, I want to create this bot, it's so hard sometimes to find a name, because all these other names are pretty much taken, and it's surprising where I would be like, I'm gonna pick this name because who would ever even think of this name, and I plug it in there and it's like, no man, there's 265 people that have this name.
Yeah, it's like, you can't have this. Hey, have these numbers. No, I don't want numbers. I just don't want numbers in my name.
That's it. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to kind of do that as a little bit of a game, just to be I wonder who has this name, or if anybody has this name. Give it a try, and 9 times out of 10 people are gonna someone's got that name already.
Have you seen the Addams Family movies?
Sorry?
Have you seen Addams Family, the two movies?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Addams Family.
Addams Family, yes.
Did you know Christopher Lloyd's in that?
Yeah, he's Fester.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking it up.
He's been in everything. He's iconic.
Yeah, and he's actually, there's a current movie being made that he's at post-production at the moment with him in it.
And he's in it, right? Yeah, okay. Do you know what it's about? Is there...
It's called...
you're saying it's currently in production.
It's called The Movers.
Oh, it's called The Movers. Okay, interesting.
It's
honestly, if Christopher Lloyd is in it, I will watch it.
He plays he plays someone called Henry Solomon.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he's not one of those actors where, I will actively seek out, and I don't think I do this for any actors, where I'm just like, yo, when's the next, this actor's movie coming out, Gerard Butler, when is his next movie coming out, or Jason Statham, or, somebody else. I don't really do that, but if I do know that there's a movie that is featuring a certain person that I really like, I get really excited about that.
He's also
I feel like he needs more of that.
Yeah.
People need to get more excited about movies that he touches.
Yeah, he was actually in, do you know Wednesday?
He's in Wednesday too? Oh, yes, he is!
Professor Orloff.
Oh, yeah. He's in Wednesday. He's the guy with the he's the head.
Yeah.
Right? That's in the jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he's. I remember. So he's actually his birthday. As far as I know, his birthday is the day after Man.
Yeah, like I said, he's all over the place.
Yeah.
Again, I saw him in The Mandalorian, and I was just thinking to myself, oh my God, that's so great. And then I think after that it was Wednesday, and then after that nobody, or they were. There was a sequence of such, but all great shows that are extremely popular. So the fact that people who are creating these very well done, well received, movies and series, they're thinking, what can we do to kind of mix this up, right? Where's the quality actors that we can bring in to kind of boost this, whether it's by their name alone, because their name brings integrity, or just the fact that they have such a dynamic presence when in anything that they're in. You know, like he's in there, and very much so recent. Again, just in those 3 examples. And I don't think that those were very far apart in years. You know, I think those were all about 3-4 years apart from each other. Yeah. You know, and as an actor, that's fantastic.
And it's good to see that he's 87 at the moment, and he's 88 this year, and he's still doing it.
Sorry, your voice was a little robotic on my side on that one.
He said I said he turns 88 this year.
88.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense because, you know, again, looking back in my youth, watching that movie, you know, Marty McFly and Doc Brown and 88 miles per hour and all that jazz.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, though. I mean, you look at, like, Harrison Ford and then, you know, Sean Connery, you know, passed on and whatnot. And you kind of see all these really, really iconic symbols, you know, that you just kind of look at and you say, okay, right there, I know that time is passing.
Yeah.
Because you see these people and you've seen their movies when they were young. You see their movies on where they're at right now. And they still hold, like I said, that integrity and sway that when they're in a movie, it automatically gives that movie more integrity.
Yeah.
And he was one of those, I believe.
Yep. One time that I've seen from your channel as well is when Chris Mark came into your channel and said that somebody actually had reached out to him because they saw your fundraising.
Yeah, actually, that was during, I believe, our front page event, our first front page event. Now, I say first because I'm applying again for the front page, so crossing my fingers, hope we get it. But that was, you know, our front page. I believe that was the Silly Surveys tournament that we did, and yeah, I think it was during that stream, you know, where they said it out loud, where they said, just FYI, like several hours into the stream, he came in and stated that this person, you know, someone came in, they saw the website, they got the website from your stream because I have it as a command and you know, throw it out often whenever we were doing the fundraising for the front page entire event, right, with the tournament and everything. We were constantly doing the fundraising on top of it, and it was very beautiful to see everybody coming together for that good cause. And then all of a sudden, again, just some of the coolest things happened where they said, you know, someone did call in, they were in crisis. And he told us this midstream, so again, I'm in the middle of, you know, like, people have just, you know, finished, sucking M&Ms from a straw and putting it from one thing to another, or doing flip cups, you know. And then all of a sudden he says, you know, someone, by the way, during your stream today so far has reached out. They were in crisis. They wanted to say thank you. They asked if they were okay that I told you, and they were okay that we told you publicly, that today, that this stream made a difference, that, you know, even if just one person reaches out, that's pretty powerful. And you don't know, you know, that's the hard part as a streamer, is it's a lot of, like, kind of one way where, you know, you do what you do and you don't always know that you make an impact.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to fall into that train of thought, that inner dialogue, whenever we're frustrated because we don't get the engagement that we want, we don't see the numbers that we want, you know, we're not hitting our goals that we're looking to hit. It's really, really easy for us to fall into that state of, maybe I'm not making a difference, maybe I shouldn't be here, maybe I'm enjoying it but nobody else is, you know, and that pulls us away from focusing on solving the problems. Instead, you know, we kind of fall into this I'm imposter syndrome type scenario. So when you hear things like that, or, you know, all of a sudden every now and then when viewers will just reach out behind the scenes and say, thank you so much, I really needed that today, or they say it in stream, you know, where they say, this was a great stream, thank you so much, you know, it really helped improve, you know, the way I saw the world today, or, you know, this bad thing happened and, you know, this just helped me to get out of that state, even just for a moment. It was a good distraction, you know, a positive boost.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff really means the world. And so, you know, in answer to a question you asked before, you get all those kind of highs, and it's hard to, like, kind of pick, you know, a peak that is higher than the rest. Because when I'm having a bad day and someone says that I helped make their day, that can be just as powerful, you know, in how it changes my mood when I'm in a low place than if I'm already in a high place and Christopher Lloyd comes in, you know, like,
Yeah.
or someone comes in and they say, hey, we reached out and did a crisis number. And you know that, you know, a simple phone call can save or change a life, right? And I think, you know, it's the same for kind of every day, where you never know when you're kind of saving or changing a life in little bits and sometimes in big bits. And again, I think most streamers just don't get that feedback. So it becomes difficult. But it does constantly give me faith as well that, you know, you are making a difference. That you never know the seeds that you've planted. You know what I mean? You may plant a seed somewhere in a tree that's going to provide shade for somebody else. But you're planting that seed that you'll never see the tree. You know?
Yep.
And I think we just got to like keep that as a narrative sometime to give ourselves that hope to constantly change and create and move forward and lean forward and learn forward instead of focusing on mistakes, you know, and what we're not getting. It's like, let's just keep moving forward and solve problems so that way we can keep doing what we're doing. As long as we love it, you know, that little feedback that we get every now and then is sometimes enough for streamers to, you know, like boost themselves forward. So, and that's for everybody. Hey, if you're in anybody's stream ever, if you like it, just tell them you like it. Tell them it makes a difference in your day. You know, pass that positive forward.
Yep. And I will say for everyone watching this podcast on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, the description, in my description on YouTube will be the link to the Eric Legacy Foundation. I will put that link down in the description for anyone who needs it or wants to pass it on. So that link will be in the description of this video. So, what advice would you give your past self on day one of streaming? If you could go back to talk to yourself.
If I could give myself advice, for if I could go back to my first day of stream, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I would say I would give myself two pieces of advice. I think 2 pieces of advice. Maybe 3. maybe 3 pieces of advice. Because I think the number one thing that people aren't ready for when they come onto the platform is the culture itself it has this like really strange narcissistic mix, you know, of just being super positive and then super negative.
Yeah.
Right? And that can happen either within communities themselves, within partnering communities that you hang out with, not partnered communities. I'm just saying other communities that you kind of associate with as you're building up your own stream, right? So I would suggest just get ready for the ups and downs that can happen, and as a priority to establish what is your why, right? Which is, why are you streaming? What's the purpose? And then hold that why, because it's easy to lose that why in the culture itself as well, because there's a lot of cultural things in which streamers are trained whenever they come in that hold them back. You know, things like, even if you go in thinking, hey, this is going to be awesome, this is going to be great, I'm going to meet a lot of people, I'm going to hang out, it's very easy for people to slip into that, like, me versus you with streamers, you know, like, get jealous of other streamers who might, you know, be farther along in their journey than you are, you know, looking at the subs and bits that they're getting or the viewership that they're getting, and fall into this, like, you know, wanting to critique them, you know, like, and try to bring them down in your mind instead of looking at them and saying, oh my God, you know, like, they're doing such a good job, they're succeeding. What are they doing that's bringing them that success? And then think about, like, reverse engineering that. So I would tell myself that there's been a lot of those kind of cultural norms that I fell into, But then from my practice of what I used to do as a corporate trainer, right? That I knew better. But just because you're so pressured into this, because all these other streamers are kind of feeling this way. Like, it takes a lot for a lot of streamers to start focusing on bits, subs, donations. Like, that monetization leap can be difficult for a lot. And for the most part, if you're streaming because your why is I want to make money, then holding on to that why and going forward, aggressively with your creativity, with looking at other streamers and seeing what they're doing, what's working for them, how can you take what another streamer is doing and the effect that they're having and then tailor it specifically for content for your own stream, so that way you don't fall into like plagiarization or mimicking. I mean, but the truth is that nobody thought up anything on this platform. Like, everybody learned it from somewhere. Everybody took something from someone, right? Whether it's the first time they're doing it on Twitch, it's not the first time it's ever been done. It was probably done on TikTok or YouTube first. So, again, getting into this place of professional courtesy and all that, I brought that in with me. But then there was so many of these pieces of cultures that was like, don't make it about money. So then when I did have to make it about money, because I wanted to stay on the platform as a career. The recession of COVID happened, and there was a recession outside of Twitch where people started going back to work, money stopped being as plentiful on the platform, viewership went down. You had to, I was making all this money before just easily, naturally. But now it was like, okay, how do I refocus that? So that way, we can mitigate the effects of this recession. And so that was hard. I think 95 to 99% of the struggles that streamers have on the platform is that it's hard for us to step out of our own way. And it's hard not to feed in to the culture of Twitch. For instance, even if you're monetizing, for some reason, donations is like a lot more of a stigma, where people are a lot less likely to use donations. And so streamers that want to refocus on donations, because you get the money immediately, instead of getting 50% of subs, right, you get like 90% or more of donations.
Yeah.
And again, same with bits. You're paying more in the long run for the bits that you're giving streamers. So again, it's like, what's the best bang for your buck? It's donations. Somehow the culture has made that, again, more of a stigma than a benefit, where we've got dono-a-thons, we can even have bit-a-thons, we can have scare-a-thons. But having donation-thons, I don't think I've ever seen anybody doing that, except for the larger streamers focusing on those donations, right? Typically, anybody else will do donations if it's like, yo, I need to pay medical bills, or, my cat, is needing some, health things for the vet. But I think overall, what I would just tell myself is be ready for the ups and downs, stay true to your core, which I feel that I've done, but it would have been nice getting that reassurance, right? And I probably would have told myself too that when it stops being fun, focus on the fun, like, don't set so many rules for yourself. Don't set so many rules for your community. Make sure you've got standards, but focus on the fun. Because I feel like those are the times when you connect the most. And I think every streamer, again, will get to places at some point in their journey where they get into that burnout, and it's because it's no longer fun for them, right? It's now about the job, They love their community, so it's not just about the numbers, but the numbers can get to you, So I think it when it starts getting less fun, refocus on the fun for you and your community. Because if you're having a good time, they're having a good time. And I think I've used that for myself in the past, but I think it was a hard lesson to learn at one time when I forgot it. And I probably would just give myself, this placard or whatever, where it's like, make it fun. And if it's not fun, then, go get a different job, because when it stops becoming fun, it'll become so much less fun. That less fun gets more and more and more unless you can refocus it there. Otherwise, get another job, diversify, make it more versatile, more interesting, or find a job outside of work or outside of streaming, which I've done at times to help subsidize streaming. So that way, again, you can focus less on the numbers and more on the fun. Until the focusing on numbers, creating content, creating games, that becomes fun again. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I agree. As I said, focus on numbers on Twitch, I think no one should do unless they go for stuff like affiliate or partner, so they can see if they're meeting what they need to go, I've met what I need for today, stop there and move on. I think that's the only time numbers should be focused on Twitch, really.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you might look and go, oh, I've only got 3 people, and be downhearted. So for me, when I'm looking at mine, I don't even look at I couldn't even tell you from time to time what numbers were in my stream. I might have 100, I might have 1 person in there, I might have only myself in there. But
yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. The only time I know is when I get a summary from Twitch at the end of my stream and go, oh, is this what I got?
Yeah. No, that's great. And that's why I started getting into coaching, because I was an employment coach. I'm as you know, I'm starting a business of life coaching where I can coach on, streaming, on mental health, relationships, and employment. And that's something that I'm also building up behind the scenes as, again, a way to kind of balance out the ups and downs, the inconsistency sometimes of Twitch. But I think I just started stream coaching because I realized that I was solving a lot of these problems whenever I would get frustrated, whenever I would lose my fun. And then I'd figure stuff out. And I think it was primarily because, again, I had that training outside of Twitch with all my coaching experience, and I just applied it there. And so when I started stream coaching, it was based on how do we get you back to finding your fun? Because I kind of look at streaming as, and I talk about this a lot, I think about streaming as being like a street performer, where buskers is what we call them in Canada. Would you call them that in the UK?
Yes.
They're called buskers? Yeah. Or street performers, I think, is how the United States and other people call it. But I look at it as like digital street performers, where literally we live off of tips from everybody. So we try and create content. We try and make it fun for you guys. We try and have fun while we're doing it. And if we stop having fun as a digital street performer, then we're kind of doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Because that's, if you're a juggler, as a street performer, as a busker, when you stop liking juggling, you can make more money, probably not busking. So, that's the moment where you go get another job, or you have this peer support within your busker community where we all kind of help each other, boost each other up, give each other suggestions, share each other's things of how you work a crowd and tips, tricks, and secrets. And I think that's the biggest thing about Twitch as well, is that it's got a lot of power and potential in that peer support. But again, I think sometimes we get too lost in those kind of the stigma culture, the things that kind of holds us back, and that me versus you mentality that is extremely common, whether we admit it or not. We make like a lot of people, but we still get jealous if they see success and we're not. It's that I don't want to rate out to that person because they're already getting enough success. Or I don't want to partner with that person because they're bigger than I am, or they see more success than I am, and I don't want them to take my community. Instead of, oh my God, if I partner with this other person that's seeing a lot of success, dude, we could grow together, and I'll, shamelessly pitch them out, and they can shamelessly pitch me out, and we grow together. And I think, when I went to TwitchCon in 2025, 2025, being able to sit in the partner lounge with Dan Clancy, and, someone asked a question in kind of like an open mic Dan Clancy discussion, what's the best way to grow on Twitch? And he said, hands down, this. He said, collaboration. That's it. Stop butting up against each working for you, awesome. But if it's working for you, then collaborating with other people is not going to be a hindrance. It's going to double your success. And I think just too many streamers isolate themselves, you know?
Yeah. I've just done a collab with a streamer recently. I've never actually done stream together before.
Mm-hmm.
I have, well, I still haven't. I had it sort of come up with doing stream together with cameras when I've been doing D&D, but I've never, I've done my first ever shared chat recently.
Okay.
And that was an experience for me.
Yeah. Trying all the different things that Twitch has to offer it's exciting for me, as much as it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, I totally understand that. But, you know, like one of those things as well that I like to teach people is, you know, don't wait to be ready, because it's a lie that we tell ourselves. You know, like, ooh, I'm not going to try out this feature until I'm ready. Instead, set yourself up to be willing, right? Just build up the courage to be willing. Because if you're willing, then you're going to be okay with failure, because you accept that it's not going to be perfect, right? Number two, you won't fall into that perfect trap, because that's impossible. You're never going to be perfect. So it's the perfect mind trap for you to procrastinate, because your brain knows you're never going to hit perfection. So it's the best procrastination tool our brain has is, oh, no, I just want to be ready. Don't be ready, be willing. And also, you know, work with your community and work with other streamers to kind of like help you when you're about to try something new, to be like, guys, I'm going to try something new. Would you mind like coming in and giving me permission to do that, or coming in and giving me a little bit extra during this time, you know, or maybe we could do something together and you know that I'm going to try something new. So that if it doesn't work, we're already mentally ready to roll with the punches, and, you know, you can talk to chat while I fix the fact that nothing's working, you know, like, and set it up that way. Again, it's one of those, we grow better together, because if we have a support system and we utilize it, we know how to utilize it better, then there's literally nothing that we can't do.
Yep.
That we can't try.
Yeah. So, I can skip some of these, because like I said, some of the advice I say that you give yourself, you probably give to most streamers anyway, about having all fun, like you said, having fun that lot. So, you've sort of probably, I think, dabbled in this one a bit. But what's your favourite games or content that you stream?
Oh, I think I mean, there's a lot there, because, you know, like, my stream itself has gone through a lot of evolution, you know.
Yeah.
From the time that we first started, we were doing 1 hour, and it was literally this husband-wife duo, and then switching over to creating game shows and networking events, both on and offline for streamers. So that way that was part of our content online, to mixing in games and, you know, doing things like Scream to Redeem streams, where I play games and people, you know, use things like Tangia and Dixper. These are apps that create jump scares and other things. You know, if I get scared so many times, then we do big game giveaways and such. But it's, you know, it's a lot of fun for people to try and, you know, sabotage me in my success in these scary games. And then, you know, evolving even from there to doing, you know, podcasty stuff. And now we're doing coaching live on stream, right? We just you know, decided to support my business of coaching that we're doing behind the scenes, and refocus some of the content that we're doing here on stream to be able to do live free coaching in an Ask Me Anything type format. And so, you know, we're in a constant state of evolution, but at the same time, Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 just came out and I wanted to play it. So, you know, back to doing some games. So I think it's just going to be like ever evolving. And I think that I'm just going to give myself permission to be able to evolve slowly, and to be as versatile or as niche as I want to. Now, you know, for advice, that's a me thing. But if people really do want to grow, then the best way to do that is pick a niche, hit it hard, network with the other people in that niche. And that would be things like, you know, if you like Minecraft, then focus on your Minecraft, do Minecraft all the time. That's the best way to grow. Downside is you can get bored of that. and then all of a sudden you switch whatever it is that you're doing, and whatever community that you built, that's going to get hit hard in the analytic department because you've built this based off of the consistency of you playing this game.
Yeah.
Again, best way to grow. It does have potential side effects that it may not remain interesting enough. In fact, it may be a burden for you to have to go live knowing you got to play the same game over and over again. So I do like versatility. And I think I'll always have like a versatile element to what I'm doing. But I would like to see what I'm doing more, switching into the like coaching aspects, stay on the just chatting with like an open ask me anything at any time as a coach, as that being my identity. And then, intermingling that continually as a funnel for my coaching business, but also to be able to constantly learn ways on how to express those coaching tools and tricks, to hack yourself as a streamer or in relationships and things like that, and how to apply that to the platform, to what we're doing and how we're doing it, and use that to create more opportunities and teach people how to use those opportunities to maximize themselves, to get them out of their own headspace, and in essence, to get out of their own way, so that way they can succeed.
Yep.
So I think that's just always going to be the content to describe it. I think I'm always going to play scary games because I like them. I think I'm always going to do game shows because they're great opportunities, they're fantastic content, and they bring a lot of streamers together that might not otherwise feel comfortable being on other people's streams. But because we create these events where they run so smoothly, and thank God for all my mods. You're one of my mods, so Modfather.
Yep.
That they run so smoothly from the outside, even though we may be running around with our heads cut off behind the scenes and answering questions, and but they only see the finished product. They only see from their perspective, and for them it feels so seamless and so easy that it's comfortable for a lot of streamers to kind of get involved in all those aspects. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we're always going to create that, if not more, opportunities to interact and engage with other streamers, both on stream and within our offline Discord community as well.
Yep.
So, I mean, just versatility with probably a continued versatility, meaning we'll do anything. We do everything. We're even going to do on IRL streams because, we've got now an IRL stream rig that you may see translate, on Twitch to other platforms to, potentially as options for content. So that way, while I'm out and about, I don't have to stick to any one thing. I don't need a laptop. I can just do what I want to do and interact with and engage with my community while I'm on the go anywhere. If I'm driving. So I think just versatility is going to be the key, with a primary focus though on the just chatting.
Yeah, and I will say this for people watching the podcast: if you ever get a chance to go into SuperStream and you take part in it showcases reindeer games, the Super Olympics, I have fun doing them. I may be rubbish, I may be really bad with them, but I enjoy them. The different people you meet as well. Like I said, the networking is handy because you meet people on there that you probably would never talk to before.
Yeah, we're known. Our stream is kind of known as the international airport of Twitch, where we've connected so many streamers together because of our events and the opportunities that we've created. And I mean, I love that. I love that we are this hub where streamers can network. And we're going to be leaning into more of that in the future as well, as we have our own goals that we want to hit and continue to grow. And so, leaning into the fact that we provide these opportunities and, getting feedback from people, starting to create how we kind of make that part of our identity as that, without making any guarantees, that we can provide the opportunities. We can lead people to water, but you can't drink. So yeah, we can put you together with like 100 other streamers within a very short period of time. Interestingly enough, we can do that. We can give you visibility on our streams. We can connect you with those streamers in specific events. We have events offline where, again, great opportunities to be able to network. And we're going to be creating like actual intentional streamer networking events off stream that we're going to be bringing into our Discord in workshops, or even just while we're live, there's going to be like these get to know you type icebreaker events going on behind the scenes in the Discord while we're live, and I'll be telling people about it. So like, again, lots of opportunities. And again, this comes from like a lot of my corporate background where this is the stuff that I created all the time. So I love translating it. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of those opportunities. It's whether or not people know how to use them. And it's also if they're motivated and passionate enough to get past their own mental blocks to then maximize those opportunities. Right?
Yep. Amazing about networking. So for people to be aware, I actually met Super through another streamer who I'm hoping I might get on podcasts in the future. We'll see. I'm in person talking to them at the moment, but I met her through another streamer. So I know, as I said, Kai last week, in our last podcast, we got to know Kai through Super through the stream as well. For those who are, Super does have his own stream team called the Crew Team, which stands for Cultivating Relationships and Embracing Well-Being.
Yeah.
And that's quite good for me because I've memorized that. And it was actually through a Crew Team member that I met Super. And so, yeah, so networking is big. You may know one person, but from that one person, you can meet 10, 15 more people. And then 10, 15, you meet more 10, 15. And for me, I started, I started 6 years ago. My streams were slow, very consistent for quite a while. It still is now. But I went for Stream Raiders, and because of the amount of networking I did with Stream Raiders, I went from like 500 to 800 followers within a few months.
Yep.
And I've just recently hit 1,000 followers on Twitch as of last week.
That's amazing.
So
Stream Raiders was a hard one to lose. When Raiders, when we lost that was a huge community that was really, really powerful and positive about like networking with each other. You know what I mean?
It was. And
that was a really great community. That was a sad loss.
Yeah, I made like 300 followers from like August to the end of the year. That year.
Yeah.
But networking, like Sue says, it is a big kin. If you're not networking, you might as well do. So you might as well be stuck going in a circle. I actually used this analogy yesterday with somebody, and said, because somebody used to raid out to certain people, and I went to him, you need to raid to more people to grow. Because if you're into the same people all the time, it's like you're stuck on a roundabout. You're going around in a circle, never coming off. The roads coming off the roundabout is you raiding out to new people. If you don't get into them and raid out to new people, you're just going to be stuck going in a circle and never grow.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to network, you know? And people think that, you know, the only way to network is just be in everybody's streams all the time and make an impression. You know, that's 100% that can work. You know, that's a strategy. Whose streams do you go into? When do you go into them? What time frames do you focus on? I mean, that's all strategy too. But for me, for instance, you know, I'm a dad and I'm a husband, so, you know, balancing out streaming with my family, and you can lose hours and hours and hours and hours spending on networking, right? So it's very, very easy to do that when you don't have those responsibilities. If you're single or you have, say, a spouse, you know, that is also either very much in the Twitch culture or very busy. Like they've got their own hobbies, their own life. And, you know, this is kind of like that fills those pieces in your life of going out and, you know, doing other things, having other hobbies, you know, so it's great for that. But if you have a family, you know, if you have a job and a family, you know, like your opportunities for that is less. And so there's so many opportunities as well to think of on how you can strategize networking with less time. You know, and for me, I made my networking my content. You know, streamer showcase events. Bring these streamers in. I get to hang out with them. I get to chat with them. And then all of a sudden my community knows them. We're hanging out together. We're mutually benefiting. And our bond is growing deeper. And then, yeah, we'll have you on again in the future. Like, you know, so long. And so I do that on stream as part of my content. We're going to be doing some more of that stuff as well. And that's just because after I, you know, click the goodbye button, you know, it takes about maybe a half an hour to an hour to debrief after a stream. with you and your mods, and talking with viewers as well about other stuff that happened during that stream, and then in addition to that, family, right? Or I gotta take out the garbage. I gotta go work on the car. I gotta go fix a light bulb. Just life, the universe, and everything that happens outside when you've got a family, And so that's always been a struggle, and that's a struggle for a lot of streamers that are in a very similar situation. So that'll always be the thing: is how do you network? And I think again, just being with other people, and that's why I do the coaching. Being with other people, having a support system that not only will support you when you're in struggle, but can also brainstorm with you to find out how you can work within the parameters that you have, right? How can you work with what you got to establish what you need to do to grow or to meet your goals?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. So, here's a big question that is very hard for people to answer. So if you had the choice to be partnered with any company, who would it be?
If I had a choice, oh my God, I don't know if there's a right or the right or wrong answer, and I know there's no right or wrong answer, but there could be, because my problem is I don't keep myself up to date on really there's so much going on in the world right now and I don't like to bring politics into it, but it's hard to escape it, but I do avoid it. I just kind of talk about it generally, but with social media culture mix that with politics and religion and all these other things that are now everywhere all the time, right? So if people have a problem with something, it's now everywhere, right? Yeah. And so you're like, ooh, what are we supporting or not supporting now? Or maybe if I don't agree that you're supporting or not supporting something, still how do I kind of remain neutral so that I know what's going on, so that way I don't get the negative effects of that, right? So I mean, what company is that? One's a hard one. I instead of saying what company, I'm gonna say I mean, if you give me options, then I would probably say I would love to be able to partner with Elgato. I would love to be able to partner with some games that I really like, and become one of their affiliated streamers or reps. But if we're talking about, again, companies, I just like to...
Yeah, stuff like with streaming, like you said, with Elgato, I know people might like Razer, be a Razer partner, get stuff for them, also from them. Stuff like that. Just if you could go... Yeah. If any company could come to you today with an email going, I want to be a partner with you.
Yeah. I would say Elgato. I've got 3 Stream Decks, 2 32-button Stream Decks, one 15-button Stream Deck, all of them with subfolders and everything like that, and different profiles for each game show that I do, so that way I can do all the sounds and all the overlays and everything like that. And I like their stuff. I just recently acquired a Elgato kind of key light or best light. And that I've really, really loved out of all the other lights that I have, because it gives me the opportunity to be able to do a fade transition between Kelvins and brightness. And, I'm nerding out right now. So I would probably say, if I had the choice, I would go Elgato. I would also probably go with Rode as well, because we got the... I had a Rode pod mic. I'm using the Shure SM7B right now, which is fantastic. So if Shure wants to, absolutely. But I really like the Rode mics. The Rode Go's are fantastic. They're a great kind of starter one. Before you spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars more to upgrade that. But for the most part, a lot of people use those ones, the Rode Go's. I also had the Rode Pod mic, which is an amazing microphone. It's very, very much so compatible or comparable to the Shure SM7B, I feel, once you get the right EQs and filters and everything like that in there. The only downside is it's a tank. It's heavy as hell, but it's a beautiful, beautiful mic if you can work with the weight of it. Yeah, it's just fantastic. But I think companies, what I was thinking is outside of, those necessarily of tech companies, just companies as a whole, that generally people know, because anybody outside of streaming wouldn't know those things. Not to say anything about companies, that I jump on board with, but I always when I was growing up, looked at Disney, because I heard that Disney had said this, and I see this in a lot of quotes, where it says if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think that's why I like Twitch so much, is because that kind of stuck in my head. I always felt like Twitch was the digital Disneyland, where if you can think it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And so that's been my go-to thought in guiding everything. That when I think, oh, can I do this? You know, I've never told myself no. Even when other people are like, I don't think you can do that on Twitch. Like, I don't think it's possible. And I'm like, well, not with that attitude. If you can dream it, you can do it, right? And then I get my tech guys, and they're all like, yeah, well, okay, well, like, we'll give it a go. And it's like, within 24 hours, I'm usually then getting these, you know, links to these things. I guess we could use this app, and maybe we could use this widget. Maybe we could put it onto the Stream Deck, and maybe we might be able to combine that with, you know, this thing on Twitch. And then all of a sudden, you know, we've created a variation of that original idea. So I would say, like, what Disney originally stood for, because I know there's a lot of ups and downs politically and socially and other things now, but I would say, like, what Disney meant to me when I was a kid, and that's the dream that I would love to be able to work with. And so whatever company basically believes that if you can dream it, you can do it. You know, and they have, you know, ethics and morals to back that up. You know, the proof is in the pudding. Then I would love to partner with those people. And, you know, a lot of times strangers are just friends that you haven't met yet. And so, you know, opening that up to anybody that might be listening to this, happy to partner with you, just as long as, you know, like, you believe in the core values that we believe, and they match your core values. You know, let's have at her.
Yep. Yep. Thank you very much, Super, for that.
No problem.
So thank you very much, everyone, for today's podcast. We will be back next week with another guest who is, well, we'll have to wait and find out. But until then, thank you very much. But yeah, thank you, and I'm
absolutely my pleasure.
Glad to have you on. As I say, I'm here. I'm reaching out to as many people as I can. These podcasts will be going for everyone. Like, if you're affiliated, partner, not even affiliate, I reach out to as many people, because it's good to see the scope of how, from people like yourself with 6 years to someone who might only be doing it for like 5-6 months, and it's good to see the contrast between them. So yeah. But
awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yep, and I will see everyone in the next podcast, which will be out next week. Until then, thank you everyone. Bye for now.